I absolutely believe need not be a new Cold War. I've met many times with Xi Jinping, and we were candid and clear with one another across the board. And I do not think there's any imminent attempt on the part of China to invade Taiwan. And I made it clear that our policy on Taiwan has not changed at all. It's the same exact position we've had.
That was President Biden in Bali defending the Chinese Communist Party, speaking yesterday ahead of today's G20 summit. Biden spoke with China's Xi Jinping for 3 hours yesterday, but he didn't say what he's been saying for the last 6 months. The White House readout of that meeting also makes no mention of any issues around fentanyl. That was not raised. No issues around the origins of COVID and the CCP covering up the COVID-19 disaster out of a Wuhan lab, refusing to have any real investigation. Joining me right now is Texas Congressman, ranking member of the House Foreign Affairs Committee, Michael McCaul. Congressman, we really appreciate you joining me this morning because this is your purview, and you know the efforts of the Chinese Communist Party to overtake the United States as the #1 superpower. What is your reaction to Joe Biden's handling of Xi Jinping?
You know, it was once again, a projection of weakness. It was not a deterrence to the threat from China. As you mentioned, the fentanyl's coming in from China, killing our young people. I think 75,000 young people have died in the United States. That's as many as Vietnam in 20 years. There was no mention of, a deterrence about Taiwan. Obviously, Xi, when he got reelected the imperial president, talked about having world not only economic but military technology domination. And this seemed like a very cozy setting, but I don't think anything was accomplished. And this should have been, he says we're not in a Cold War. Maria, I disagree with that. I think we are in a Cold War, and it wasn't started by the United States. We have been over backwards to help them, bring them in the family of nations. We sell them all this technology, and we have to stop that, as you and I have talked about. And then they steal our intellectual property that we saw at the Houston consulate that was shut down by Mike Pompeo, who you just had on. We got to wake up to China, and we got to get off their critical supply chains, including semiconductors. But their intents are real, and they say it as clearly as Hitler said Mein Kampf. If you listen to their words, they're very clear about what their goals are. And we have to provide that deterrence, and I don't believe this president is capable of doing that.
Well, I mean, obviously, he doesn't appear to be, particularly given what we know about him being compromised after all the money him and his family took from Chinese officials. But putting that aside, the FBI has told us umpteen times that the CCP is an adversary, and this is the biggest danger for America. So Joe Biden, for the last 6 months, has been telling us if they invade Taiwan, we're going to act militarily. And then when he's face-to-face with Xi Jinping, he doesn't say it. I mean, when Xi Jinping gets up from that seat, doesn't he walk away saying, well, they're going to stick to the China policy? They didn't say it to me. So it was obviously just talking points when he said it in the last 6 months.
Well, that's right. And he, it's a very sort of winking, congratulates him on his victory. He talks about climate change more than anything, but not the major national security risk, and that would be China taking over Taiwan, which manufactures, by the way, Maria, 90% of the global advanced semiconductor chips. If that gets taken over by China or destroyed, either way, we're going to be in a world of hurt, and it'll send us into a Great Depression. And so there's so much at stake here, and this is a time for deterrence. And, I've mentioned to you before, I sign off on all military weapons sales. Taiwan has bought a lot of them. We have a 3-year backlog into Taiwan. My Taiwan Policy Act hopefully will pass on the National Defense Authorization, which provides for the financing, but most importantly, the joint training between the United States of America and Taiwan on the ground. That's one reason why Ukraine's doing so well, is they've been trained.
Well, this is a really good point that you make, and we know that Republicans need one more seat for the majority control of the House of Representatives. Congressman, you are likely to be the chairman of the Foreign Affairs Committee. So what can you do in that role to show leadership that obviously the commander-in-chief is not showing?
Well, look, we're going to have an extensive investigation of Afghanistan. What went so wrong? Why were Americans left behind? Why are the Afghan partners? And why? Because the American veteran deserves the answers, and the response. And to your point about Hunter Biden, I'll be working with, Jim Comer on this investigation as it pertains to China. What was going on with that laptop? What was going on with Hunter Biden getting money from China? And did his father get kickbacks? And that would be a very serious investigation.
Congressman, thank you. The public needs that, and we know that now the FBI agent, Mr. Chan, will have to answer under oath for why he told Meta to suppress the story. Congressman Michael McCaul, thank you, sir. We'll be right back.